Imagine that a simple backache on a Tuesday afternoon could turn into the most profound experience of my life. The kitchen window let in a soft gold light, the kind that settles on the linoleum like melted butter. I could smell the chamomile steeping in my cracked blue mug, and somewhere a sparrow tapped at the glass. The kettle clicked off. And then I heard the front door open and a voice I knew so well say, "Mom, I brought the heating pad and something else." Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and write in the comments which city you are listening from. It means a great deal to us. I had not expected that voice to change the shape of the room. I am 68 years old, and I have lived alone now for 9 years, since Robert left me in the middle of a November with the furnace still humming. My days had a gentle architecture to them, the same one I walked every morning. I rose at 6, made my tea, sat by the window, and watched the maple lose its leaves, season after season. The floorboards creaked in the hallway at exactly the spot where the nail had worked loose, and I had learned to step over it. My back had begun to ache 3 months ago, a quiet, persistent thing that no pillow could fix. I tried hot water bottles and old liniments Robert once used on his shoulders. Nothing held. On Monday, I called my son Daniel and told him plainly, "I need help. My back is not listening to me anymore." He said he would come Tuesday at 2. At 1:55, I straightened the lace runner on the coffee table and opened the front door. He arrived carrying a worn leather tool bag I did not recognize and a folded heating pad tucked under his arm. Daniel was 45, broad-shouldered, with his father's steady hands and a calmness he had not had when he was young. His hair had gone silver at the temples, and he wore a soft gray sweater with a small coffee stain near the cuff. His eyes were the color of river stones, and they found mine without hurry. He set his bag down on the mat and said, "You look tired, Mom." I laughed softly and said, "That's what 68 does to a woman." He smiled, and I noticed something I had not seen in years, a tenderness in the way he held his mouth, as if he had learned how to carry other people's pain. That was unexpected. He asked where it hurt most, and I pointed to the chair by the window, the one with the faded blue cushion. He moved slowly, testing the chair legs, adjusting the height with a small wrench from his bag. The room felt smaller with him inside it, the air warmer, his breathing a quiet rhythm beneath the ticking clock. I could smell cedar from his bag and the faint metallic scent of the wrench. He knelt behind me, and I felt the vibration of his fingers pressing gently into the knot between my shoulder blades. I did not touch him. I watched his reflection in the window glass, the way his jaw tightened with focus. I found myself leaning back just slightly, closer than I had planned. He did not notice, or if he did, he said nothing. I stood to brew more tea, my hands moving through the ritual of spoon and kettle and waiting. I straightened a photo frame on the shelf, Robert's face smiling out at nothing. I washed my mug and set it down with a soft click. The ordinary acts felt different now, witnessed. The pain began to loosen, and Daniel sat back on his heels and said, "There's a tightness here that goes deeper than muscle." On the surface, he meant the spine, but I heard something else beneath the words, something about years of holding, of carrying what no one else would see. I sat in the blue chair and said, "You sound like your father when he talked about old houses." He looked up at me, and the afternoon light caught the silver in his hair. "Dad used to say the worst cracks are the ones you can't see from the doorway," he answered. I paused. He poured himself water from my glass pitcher and asked, "When did you last let someone take care of you, Mom?" The question landed gently, but it shook something loose in my chest. I told him the truth. "I haven't, not really, since the hospice nurse left." He nodded slowly. Then he said, "My marriage ended 2 years ago. Sarah took the house in Portland. I came back here because I didn't know where else to go."
We sat with that.
Two people who had spent years being strong alone, now admitting the quiet cost. The rain began without warning, a soft sheet against the kitchen window, and neither of us moved toward the door. Daniel noticed a hairline crack in the window frame above my sink and said he could seal it if I had a candle and some putty. I did. He worked while the rain thickened, and I set 2 bowls of soup on the table, the kind Robert used to make with too much black pepper. We sat across from each other, our knees almost touching beneath the small oak table, the steam rising between us like a shared breath. The clock said 4:30, but it felt like 7 and also like 10 minutes. Time folded around us in a way I had not felt since Robert was alive. He did not check his phone. I did not glance at the television. We simply sat, two mugs warming our palms, looking out at the rain together. The room held us the way a good coat holds the body on a cold morning, without asking permission. The soup grew cold, and neither of us reached to reheat it. Daniel spoke first, his voice low and careful. He told me about the silence in his empty apartment, how he would set 2 plates out of habit and then fold one away. He said his daughter called on Sundays, but the calls lasted 7 minutes, always 7, as if love had been measured and portioned. I listened, and then I answered in equal measure. I told him about the years after Robert died, how the house kept his smell for months, and then one morning it was simply gone. How I missed not the grand romance, but the small companionship, the sound of his newspaper rustling, the way he hummed off-key in the shower, the presence of another heartbeat in the bed. I forgot what it felt like to not be the only person breathing in a room, I said. He set his spoon down and said, "It's a recognition of loneliness meeting loneliness, isn't it?" The phrase settled between us like a warm stone. We were quiet then, the rain filling the silence. 2 people who had not spoken honestly in a long time, surprised to find themselves doing it now. Neither offered pity. Neither performed. We simply existed, side by side, in the gentle gravity of being. Understood. Daniel reached across the table and took my hand. Not quickly, not with performance, but with a deliberate care, as if he were picking up something fragile and precious. His thumb rested against my wrist, where my pulse was slow and steady. The warmth of his palm traveled up my arm and into my chest, and I felt my shoulders drop for the first time in months. I did not pull away. I did not explain myself to myself. I simply allowed it, the way you allow rain to touch your face when you have been thirsty too long. His fingers were rough from work and gentle from intention. The contact lasted no more than 10 seconds, and yet the room rearranged itself around that moment. I understood then with a quiet clarity that someone had seen me, not my house, not my age, not my grief, but me, the woman who still lived inside all of it. He stood to gather his tools, and the rain had softened to a mist. We agreed he would return Saturday to finish the window frame and to help me plant the tomato seedlings I had ordered months ago and never opened. He wrote his new phone number on the back of Robert's old grocery list, pressing the pen with care so the ink would not smudge. I walked him to the door and watched his broad back move down the walk, the gray sweater darkening where the mist touched it. The door closed, and I stood in the hallway, my hand still warm where he had held it. I looked at the blue chair by the window, now straightened, the cushion no longer sagging under old pain. Something in the house had been repaired, and something in me had shifted its weight, like a door that had been stuck for years finally finding its hinge. It is never too late to feel seen. Some repairs go deeper than the wall they fix. Life does not